Hey, how are you today? This is Dawnna St. Louis, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I shook up the game, especially with my speaking and consulting business, and how it really kind of pissed off my competitors a little bit. So, as a lot of you know, I am a speaker, and basically I'm an expert when it comes down to sales and entrepreneurship, right? So how can entrepreneurs make more money? How can leaders, especially when there's an economic downturn, turn things around? So I always talk about how to do these things that are a little bit innovative and kind of out of the box. So one of the things that happened at the beginning of the year was I decided to make a significant shift in my business. And I mean, it was a huge, risky, crazy, over-the-top shift, and it completely broke all the rules that I was taught that I had to live by, especially in this business. So, you know, in this whole consulting, contracting type business where we're out working with people and we're the expert and we're the guru and we're coming in to fix problems, we're taught by our association and by our colleagues that there's a certain way to do things. And you do things that way, and that is the way they're done. So one of the things specifically has been around pricing, right? So when you start looking at your business model and how you price things in your business model, there is a certain way that's supposed to go. If you are speaking for free, then you must be selling from the stage, or you're a complete amateur. It's only one of those two things. If you're setting yourself out as a low price, then what you're really telling your client is that you're a rookie, that you're new to the game. And so a lot of this that I'm going to talk about is going to tell you a little bit about something that I thought, right? That I believed, and I thought I had to do things that way because that was the rules of the game. What I changed specifically to not follow the rules anymore, and what was the risk, because there was a risk, and then what was the result. So I'm going to give you kind of the deets in this. All right, so let's start with the first thing. So I have a really good friend who we were sitting down and we were talking about my business. And the first thing we started talking about was my ideal customer. Now, you guys know me, like from an entrepreneur perspective, I know what my ideal customer is. I know who my target market is. I know what that target market looks like. It's not even a question if I know that. And so he said, just hang on and play with me for a little bit, and let's just see who your target market is and what your target market looks like. So we decided to sit down and do this exercise. So this exercise, he put it on a spreadsheet. It had 5 columns. So the very first column was titled, Your Ideal Past Customers. So he said, just write down your top 5 ideal past customers, those customers that you absolutely, positively love. So we did that. We wrote down the top 5. And it was very interesting just for me to go back and look in history and identify who this top 5 was, right? And I had very good memories of them. And then the very next column said, identify the characteristics of your top 5, right? So first, hey, Michael, I'm actually talking about that thing we worked on in regards to the ideal customer. So the very first thing we did was we looked at the ideal customer, and then we looked at the characteristics of the ideal customer. So let's say, for example, that one of my ideal customers was LexisNexis. And I've worked with LexisNexis a ton. And so in the very next column, we looked at, okay, so what were the characteristics of this ideal customer? So we identified things like they respected my expertise that I was bringing to the table. They wanted me to come on and be exactly who I was. They did not want me to be something else. They made sure that everything was set up. They allowed me to deliver authentically. It didn't even matter the location, because sometimes they were here, sometimes they were elsewhere. They didn't cut my time. They were very good on managing the time. They asked me for my expertise and how I would bring that expertise to the table. So basically, they recognized my expertise. They had the right people in the audience that wanted to hear my message. They were looking for follow-up and to do more with the message than just hear the message. They wanted to take action after the message, which was so important to me. So they wanted to take action after the message. They also rehired me several times to take action after the message, which was so important. And then beyond doing that, they referred me a bunch. So when I started thinking of my top 5 characteristics, they recognized my expertise. They had my right target audience. They wanted me to deliver what I delivered, and they wanted to use it. They wanted me to come back and follow up on that expertise. And then on top of it, they referred me a lot to other people. Top 5 characteristics. Okay. I want you to pay close attention to one of those characteristics that I did not say, was that they had the perfect budget. They didn't have the perfect budget, by the way. We're going to talk about that in a second. So then we went to the opposite side of the spreadsheet, and in column 5, it said, identify your worst customers. The absolute worst. These guys were the worst customers. And identify those customers, and I'm not going to call out one of the names, but let's say they are a major credit card company. So this major credit card company was the worst customer because when they asked me to get on the platform, they said, what we want you to do is read from a script. And when you read from that script, we want to know what jokes you're going to have in that script so we can authorize those jokes. We want to make sure that you have a full dress rehearsal for 2 hours as you deliver this speech again, but only to maybe 2 people in the room. So there was like this lack of trust in regards to my expertise, lack of trust in regards to me being on the platform. There was this whole, they wanted to really control me, almost like I was just a puppet delivering what they wanted me to say. They had full fee, by the way. They had full fee, but it was a very controlling environment. And then what made it even worse is that they would cut time, like they wouldn't be where they needed to be within time. And their audience wasn't necessarily the right audience for me. It was a full audience, but I don't necessarily think it was my audience. Notice again that when I'm talking about these things are more about my delivery and how I deliver in the brand. They weren't interested. They like people to come out one time. They just like the message, and then they never want to talk to you again. So that's how they were. Not my ideal customer. So then in the very middle column, we sat and we kind of went through, okay, so what are the characteristics of your ideal customer, and what is it that, even if they're your ideal customer, like they absolutely can't have. So my ideal customer, when I identified them, they recognize my expertise. They want authentically 100% who I am. They have a great target market. They want to use the information that I give them over and over again. In other words, they're looking for follow-up on that information. They will refer me a ton of times. They're not interested in cutting my time because they recognize how valuable the information is, and they're not interested in controlling me because they recognize they value my expertise. That for me was my perfect target market. That was my perfect customer. Notice how I never said that they had the full fee. I never said that. Here's the funny thing. When I really started looking at it, I said, we put, as speakers, so much weight on the amount of money that a customer has to pay. Not that you should not be valued for your information, you should, but we put so much weight on it that we make that seem like the most important thing in order to get to our perfect customer. So I kind of made this decision. What if I changed the game? What if I said, I bucked the system and I said, well, what if I do something different with pricing? Because now I have to sit around and think about this from a customer's perspective. See, a customer is paying thousands of dollars, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 to have an expert on the platform. And they've been burnt by these experts that are $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. They've been burnt by them. So there is a risk. Their reputation is on the line. And there is a risk when they write that check. And that check, by the way, is non-refundable. Right? It's a big risk. So what if I took away some of their risk? And then the risk for me as a speaker is it's really hard for me to go up and deliver 150% when you change my 90-minute keynote into a 20-minute keynote 5 minutes before I get on stage. When you cut my 45 down to 15 and you still want me to deliver like a rock star, it makes it really damn hard, right? And like, not impossible, but come on, you can't, literally on the fly, we want you to change everything. And although that might sound easy, I got to tell you, it's easier to stretch out 15 minutes to 45 than to cut 45 into 15, especially when you have slides. So now how do we bridge this gap? How do we make sure that we get paid what we're valued for, or what our customer sees as our value, but how do we also ensure that the customer doesn't feel like they're taking a big risk? And that's when I changed things. So what I did was I made a decision in regards to my pricing model. Now, I will tell you, bureaus don't love me, and that's fine, but my clients do. And my clients have grown exponentially because of this. So the first thing I asked myself is, well, what was the lowest amount that I would ever get paid for a keynote? And I made that my deposit. And I don't mean now, I mean ever, how much I've ever been paid. So maybe that amount for you is $5,000, maybe it's $2,500, whatever it is. But I made that my deposit amount. And then I told my client that I normally get paid between, and I gave them a higher number that I normally get paid between. And I said, this is what's going to happen. You're going to pay the deposit amount. I'm going to go on stage. I'm going to deliver my keynote like nobody's business. The only agreement we have is that you do not cut my time. And when I get off stage, you pay me an amount over the deposit amount that you think is fair based on how I delivered. That's it. That's it. Now, I know some of you are going, oh, she has lost her damn mind, because people aren't going to give her the extra money. They're going to be like, well, I paid you $5,000. You're done. Good luck. See you later. I don't care. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how much money people are willing to write in that check. See, I already set the expectation that the amount that I normally get paid is 2 to 3 times the amount of the deposit amount. So I've already set that expectation. So now if I've done a good job, then you should want to write a check for that amount. That's 2 to 3 times the amount of my deposit amount. And if you don't feel like I've done a good job, then you pat me on the back and you send me on my way, but recognize that they lose the privilege of ever working with me again. See, why would they want to? They've already made it clear based on the amount that they paid that I wasn't good enough. So they'll never have the privilege of working with me again. They've cut themselves out. They've made it clear I wasn't good enough. Are you willing to cut away those people? See, I am. That's number one. Number two, we have an agreement that they can't cut my time. If they do, they have to pay a different amount. And we have that amount already set out in our agreement as well. So they don't want to cut my time, so I get my full time. And then number three, for the ones who do pay me the additional deposit amount, well, those customers are clear. Oh my God, not only did we like you, we loved you, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is, and you know what? It'd be great to have you back. We're going to refer you to 10 people. It gives me a great follow-up, by the way. Hey, I really appreciate that you paid me the extra amount. That proves to me that you absolutely enjoyed it and you saw additional value. Are there other clients that you think would find this information valuable as well? Maybe we can have a conversation about them. See, the thing is, it takes a little guts, right? Because, of course, what is my risk? My risk is that every keynote that I give could be $5,000, literally a third of what I normally get paid, right? So that's the risk that I take. But what's the reward? The reward is that I have more business. I have more clients that are writing bigger checks. I'm negotiating less and spending more time on stage. I have more events because I've taken the risk away from my client. And my client realizes that I'm going to come and deliver over the top and amazing content, and I'm totally comfortable in my skin when I'm doing it, because after all, I'm working for my paycheck. They're paying me for the performance. And I want to perform because I want to get the top dollar. So ask yourself that question. Are you really willing to have your customers pay you what they think you're worth? Are you willing to take that chance? Hey Jeff, I'm actually signing off, so hello and goodbye. I will talk to you guys later, and I would love to find out if you would like to take that chance with your own clients. And yes, today Jeff and I met, well, we actually met a little bit before this, but I guess we became Facebook friends 5 years ago. And it's so funny because when Jeff and I go back 5 years, we've done some amazing things, and both of our businesses have grown exponentially. And so Jeff is a really good friend of mine, and happy 5th birthday, Jeff. Cheesesteak, baby. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.